Welcome to the Thrifty Tips Podcast. We love that our listeners are always looking for ways to be more self-sufficient and to stretch their budgets a little further.
Absolutely.
And today we're looking to a community that has been doing just that for centuries, the Amish community.
It is amazing what we can learn from groups like the Amish, who have really honed these practices over generations without even realizing that they're doing what we call modern sustainability.
And today's deep dive is all about seed saving, but with an Amish twist.
Ooh.
So I was watching this YouTube video by Frugal Solutions, and they showed how the Amish save seeds year after year
Wow.
without ever buying new ones.
That's incredible.
It's like they've cracked the code to gardening on a budget.
I love that.
So I've got our expert here to help us break down their techniques and see what we can learn.
Wonderful.
One of the things that stood out to me in the video was how they can save seeds for years without buying new ones.
Right.
I always lose track of where I stored my saved seeds.
Yeah, that's the trick, isn't it? It really comes down to three main things. Selecting the best plants for seed saving, making sure those seeds are properly dried, and then storing them in a way that preserves their viability.
Okay, so if you are enjoying this deep dive into Amish seed-saving wisdom,
Yeah.
be sure to like and subscribe to the Thrifty Tips podcast for more insightful episodes like this one.
Definitely.
So you said selecting the best plants. What does that actually mean?
Well, the Amish are all about practicality and self-reliance.
Right.
So they're not going to waste time and resources on plants that aren't going to give them the best results. They carefully select plants that are thriving, those that are healthy, resistant to pests and diseases, and produce a lot of fruits or vegetables.
So it's kind of like survival of the fittest in the plant world.
Exactly. They are essentially choosing the champions to pass on their genes to the next generation.
That makes so much sense.
And this is where their deep understanding of their environment comes into play.
Okay, so in practice, how would you even know which tomato is the Michael Phelps of the tomato world?
Well, let's take tomatoes as an example.
Okay.
The Amish will often choose tomatoes that are fully ripe, even slightly overripe,
Right.
because those seeds have had the longest time to mature on the vine.
Interesting.
And for cucumbers, believe it or not, they often choose ones that have started to yellow.
Hold on, yellow cucumbers. Aren't those bad? I always compost those.
I know, it seems counterintuitive, but remember, we're talking about seeds here.
Right.
That yellowing is a sign that the seeds inside are fully developed and ready for the next stage.
Okay, so they've got their star players.
Yep.
What happens next? The video mentioned something about a wet method and a dry method.
Exactly. So the method they use actually depends on the type of plant.
Oh, okay.
For juicy fruits like tomatoes and cucumbers, they use what's called the wet method.
Okay.
This involves scooping out the seeds and the gel surrounding them,
Okay.
letting them ferment for a few days.
Fermenting? Like getting all bubbly and smelly.
That's right. It might sound strange, but that fermentation process is actually crucial.
Okay.
It helps to break down the gel coating around the seeds,
Oh,
which can sometimes inhibit germination.
interesting.
Think of it like removing a protective layer so those seeds can sprout more easily.
So don't forget to like and subscribe to the 30 Tips podcast to hear more fascinating deep dives just like this.
Yes, please do.
So is this fermentation thing, is that just for tomatoes and cucumbers, or do other seeds need that spa treatment too?
It's a great question. For things like beans,
Uh-huh.
peas,
Yeah.
and corn, they actually use what's called the dry method.
Hmm.
Those seeds are allowed to dry fully on the plant.
So you just let nature do its thing
Yeah.
and then collect them when they're ready.
Exactly.
That sounds a lot easier
It is much simpler.
than the fermenting jars.
Though with corn, there is an extra step of shelling the kernels from the cob.
Right.
But overall, it's much more hands-off.
So it's like set it and forget it gardening.
Right. Exactly. You know, it's interesting because even though those techniques seem simple, there's a deep understanding of the science of seed saving there, even if they aren't thinking about it in those terms.
Right. And that's what's so fascinating about the Amish approach.
Yeah.
They're not reading textbooks on botany or genetics.
Right.
They're relying on generations of observation and practical knowledge.
Exactly.
It's like they've intuitively figured out how to work with nature's rhythms.
Absolutely. And that intuition also extends to how they store their seeds.
Okay.
The video mentioned that they typically use cool, dry places like root cellars or well-ventilated basements.
Why do you think those environments are so important?
Well, I'm guessing it has to do with preventing the seeds from sprouting too early
Right.
or getting moldy.
That makes sense.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
Cool. Dry conditions mimic that natural dormant period for seeds.
Okay.
They also use simple but effective containers like glass jars with tight lids or clearly labeled envelopes.
Speaking of labels, I've definitely had my fair share of seed-saving mishaps.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that time I accidentally planted sunflower seeds
Mm.
thinking they were corn? Let's just say my family was not impressed with that corn on the cob.
Oh, no, that's funny.
Yeah.
But that brings up a crucial point. Clear labeling is key.
Yes, it is.
It's not just about avoiding dinner disasters.
Right.
It's also about preserving the integrity of those heirloom varieties.
Okay, so if you are finding these seed-saving secrets as captivating as I am,
They are really cool.
hit that like button and subscribe to the Thrifty Tips podcast
Please do.
for more deep dives into thrifty living.
Yes.
You mentioned heirloom varieties.
Yeah.
What makes them so special? And why do the Amish put so much emphasis on saving them?
Heirloom varieties are like living treasures.
Oh, wow.
They're open pollinated, meaning they reproduce naturally.
Okay.
And their seeds have been passed down for generations, often within specific communities.
Oh.
This means they've adapted to local conditions and often have unique flavors and characteristics that you just won't find in your typical store-bought hybrids.
So it's not just about nostalgia. These heirlooms are better suited to their environment,
Yeah,
and they taste better.
exactly. And for the Amish, preserving these heirloom varieties is about more than just good food.
Mm-hmm.
It's about maintaining that connection to their heritage and their community.
It's like they're saving a piece of their history,
Yeah,
one seed at a time.
I love that.
And speaking of community, the video mentioned that the Amish often swap seeds with each other.
Right.
What's the purpose of that?
Seed swapping is actually a brilliant strategy for building resilience.
Oh, okay.
You know, by sharing seeds, they create a safety net in case someone's crop fails,
Mm.
or if a particular variety becomes scarce.
So it's like a community-based seed bank,
Exactly.
making sure that everyone has access to a diverse range of seeds
Yeah,
and prevents those precious varieties from disappearing.
absolutely. And it goes beyond just practicality. Okay. Seed swapping strengthens community bonds and fosters a spirit of sharing and cooperation.
I like that.
It's a beautiful example of how a simple practice can have ripple effects that extend far beyond the garden.
It's like they're weaving together a network of support,
Yeah.
one seed at a time.
I love that analogy.
Okay, so we've covered selecting the best plants, different drying methods, storing those precious seeds, and the importance of seed swapping.
Yep.
But I have a feeling there's even more to this Amish seed-saving wisdom.
Oh, there is.
What other insights can we glean from their methods? It's amazing how much we can learn from the Amish and their approach to seed saving.
It really is.
It's not just about the techniques,
Right.
it's a whole mindset.
Yeah, a way of life.
Yeah, and one of the things that really struck me was their emphasis on making sure those saved seeds are actually good.
Oh, absolutely.
The video mentioned this test they use, the float test.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Sure, so the float test is incredibly simple.
Okay.
You take a container of water. Uh-huh.
And you drop in a few seeds.
Okay.
The viable seeds, the ones that are full of life and ready to germinate,
Yeah.
those will sink to the bottom.
Oh, wow.
And the duds, the ones that have lost their vitality, those
Yeah.
will float.
So simple, but so effective.
It is. It's amazing how something so basic can tell you so much about a seed's potential.
You know, it makes me think about how we often rush through things in our modern lives.
Yeah, we do.
But the Amish really take that time to observe and connect with the natural world.
Absolutely. And that's really at the heart of their approach.
Yeah.
It's all about paying attention to those subtle cues,
Right.
understanding nature's rhythms, and working in harmony with those cycles.
I think that's a powerful reminder for all of us.
Definitely.
That we can benefit from slowing down,
Yeah,
observing, and appreciating the wisdom of nature.
I completely agree.
You know, as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm struck by how much more there is to seed saving than just, well, saving seeds.
Oh, there's so much more to it. It's about connecting with nature,
Uh-huh.
building resilience,
Yeah,
and maybe even creating a legacy for future generations.
absolutely. It's a way to connect with our ancestors,
Yeah.
to honor their traditions, and to ensure that these precious varieties continue to thrive.
And if you're enjoying this deep dive into Amish seed-saving wisdom,
It's fascinating.
be sure to like and subscribe to Thrifty Tips Podcast
Yes, please do.
for more insightful episodes just like this one.
Definitely.
It's easy to get caught up in the hustle and bustle of modern life and forget about these simple time-tested practices.
Right.
But the Amish really remind us that there's so much value in slowing down,
Yeah,
connecting with nature,
Sure.
and taking control of our food sources.
absolutely. And what's so inspiring is that anyone can do this.
You're right.
It doesn't require special equipment or, years of training.
Yeah.
It's about observation,
Mm-hmm.
patience,
Yeah.
and a willingness to learn from nature.
I love that. Well, on that note, I want to thank you, our amazing listeners,
Yes, thank you.
for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Amish seed saving.
It's been a pleasure.
It has. And a huge thank you to our expert for sharing your insights and expertise with us today.
My pleasure.
So as you head out into your garden, or even just tend to a few pots on your windowsill,
Yeah.
remember the wisdom of the Amish.
Yeah.
Slow down,
Yeah.
observe, connect with nature,
Yes.
and consider saving those precious seeds.
You'll be glad you did.
You never know what stories they hold or what legacies you might create.
So true.
Thanks for listening to the 50 Tips Podcast.
Thank you.
Please like and subscribe.